Hello and welcome to the Hevi AI Podcast, the podcast where we explore the intersection of AI, mining, technology, and heavy industry. I'm Paul Colbiner.
And I'm Brad Gingill.
And together we've built Hevi, your AI-powered contract administration platform. Today we are joined by Ravi Sahu, the founder and CEO of Strayos. Strayos, founded in 2016, is a US-based company specializing in AI-powered visual intelligence solutions for the mining and quarrying industries. Their platform utilizes data for drones, scanners, smart drills, and sensors to create 3D digital twins of sites, enabling enhanced safety, efficiency, and productivity. Currently serving over 3,000 sites worldwide, Strayos offers tools for drill and blast design, geology mapping, site analysis, and environmental monitoring, aiming to optimize operations across the entire mine-to-mill operation. Welcome to the show, Ravi. And I should just point out that I'm the only person here when I was going through that intro about Strayos who hasn't worked at Strayos. So over to you guys to give your spiel about Strayos.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I didn't help with any of that. That just, I don't know where you pulled it from. Maybe
fantastic. Yeah,
that's great. Maybe ChatGPT.
Well, I was going to say it's like the power of AI and tools. It was helped me craft that nice intro about Strayos.
Yeah, I should use that, in my intros. Yeah, thank you for that.
We're already at the intersection of AI and heavy industry within the first sentence. Nice.
Yes, I guess, Ravi, to start off, I guess, if you walk us through sort of your early journey and early stages of career and sort of like, what brought you to then start Strayos and sort of, I guess, your sort of the tech background moving into the heavy industry space versus us mining, moving into the tech space. Yeah, just walk us through sort of your early career and journey to starting Strayos.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here and chatting with you guys. So my journey in the mining industry is sort of, I would say just, stumbled upon into the mining industry. Although I have a history, or not so much history, my family is supposed to come from like the mining industry. My grandfather worked in iron ore mine. I come from a country, India. And the state I grew up is a heavy, almost a very influenced by the mining industry. Brad has actually visited my state.
That's right.
And my grandfather worked in iron ore mines, and then later on worked in an actual steel plant. But that never influenced me or there was never an encouragement to go and work in and build a business in the mining. Throughout my journey, I'm a computer science major. I started working for essentially building softwares for Fortune 500 companies, did a couple of startups. Later on, I was just starting as a few years ago as a side project, kind of more tinkering around, with the drone as an industry, like taking this digital twins, data and developing models on top of it. That supposed to be the journey of just layering, like how do we take the physical data, physical aspect, and layering it for the some more analytics. What happened is one of my early my MBA friend at that point of time, he encouraged me to talk to some of the members here in Missouri Science and Technology University. And that was the initial inception of just understanding about the mining industry. One of the professors, he took me to the mining, his mining class, and then this experimental mine. He let me hold these explosives, and he walked me through like this, an entire experimental mine, and then he gave me this story of here is how you put actually hole. Here is how you he threw a tape and he started measuring the whole downhole and the bottom. This is how we do things. And I was fascinated. There is an entire industry here where you actually, drill hole and put explosives and you blow things up. Man, this is fascinating. And so more and more I got, just curious and just started learning more about, this problem. Later on, I was introduced to someone, a company where Brad worked, and that's where the stars were lining up, and that was the more this push and pull happened. Hey, we want to build this. Can you do that? And that's how the Strayos was essentially started. And for me, it's just aligning kind of some of the skills that I had from the computer science and the software development side, and just kind of finding out what are the problems are. So the more I just learned about problems, what I found is just, this is a fascinating industry, and I should do something about it. If there are problems.
Yeah, awesome.
So, yeah,
especially when those problems are like, how do we blow stuff up better?
How do we blow stuff up more efficiently? Or look cooler.
Fun problems to solve.
I was going to say that, I think you mentioned sort of as you were going through your early stuff, like you had a few other startups post the CS degree. Like, did you always sort of want to become sort of a founder and entrepreneur? And then, like, what were those initial sort of forays into the startup space?
Yeah, so I was never a founder before, although considering more kind of a traditional, founder, right? Where you start a business and then raise capital. I've never did that, although I had started the business more of a as a business where I can, develop and kind of developing things for others. Cool. So I did a lot of software development for my other friends, who have started the company.
Yeah, you're the tech guy who everyone comes to like, hey, I've got this idea for the next Facebook. Ravi, can you build it for me?
Exactly. That's what I was doing, for a bunch of people before that.
Cool.
And I was fairly enjoying those. I could build things and just things moving. And then I did a traditional what is a tech as a CTO of one of the sports crowdfunding before starting Strayos. That was more of a VC backed as well. But I learned kind of a lot throughout that process of what it means to be a founder. It's a whole lot of kind of processes there. I never intended to kind of essentially say I have to start a business. It was more about can I work on the projects? That was my essentially the style of getting involved, and that was also sort of Strayos too. I treated that as initially as a project. If I can do something with it or not. If it's goes somewhere, that means there is something here, and if there's a value has been created, I will continue to kind of put more effort here.
I totally agree. I love that philosophy because it's definitely one of my pet peeves when there's people out there going, I want to be a founder, and they don't care at all what the problem is that they're solving, or they don't like building software, but they want to be a tech founder. It's I think you have to love the process, like you said.
Yeah, it's something that also, and there's nothing against kind of from the founder perspective who are mission driven, and they have a vision defined for the next 5 or 10 years. But it's something that I have never found myself early in the beginning that what it looks like in the next 5 years.
Yeah,
I was just doing can I solve the next problem that I have in the next kind of 30 days. That was my entire process of running Strayos. When I started that, looking, can I solve the next 5 thing that's coming in my plate? And then kind of, the vision got evolved, broader in the future. Hey, now we want to kind of go after mind to mill, and we want to solve all the problems that became kind of, later as a part of the journey. But in the beginning, it was essentially customers kept giving me a problem. And in fact, Brad was one of them, as a customer later joined.
Always giving me
a problem. It was can I solve Brad's problem in the next few days? Yeah.
Which is, I was going to say, it's funny you mentioned the 30-day thing, because that's exactly what got me excited in the beginning, because I was like, here's a problem. This thinking, I'm used to working in big corporates where things take forever. And then, it was 30 days later. I was like, this already works. Sweet.
I'll keep talking to Ravi. Let's keep going. So I was going to say, I guess you sort of answered the next question that I had, which was when you started Strayos, did you have an original vision of this, North Star 10-year plan as to what it might look like? But I guess the answer is no to that.
Yeah. The answer is obviously in the beginning, the first year, it was not really clear because, it was a new industry for me. It was essentially as a first-time founder, I would admit, in an honest way that I don't know what I was doing. Like I said, I was really trying to solve problems that customers are bringing to me. What I do learn, it started like as I got involved more and more, understanding about the industry, what problems, what entire industry is about here, and what every day to day, where this economic value lies, and where the future kind of looks like from the transformation perspective. That's where I started putting together kind of these different pieces into the puzzle. Like I think we should start building this as a platform approach, and not just few tools here. We'll start building kind of AI first approach. Like when we maybe AI is not there initially in the beginning, but it will be in the future. But we would be the first company to start kind of building AI as a layer on the computer vision side and the modeling side. And that became kind of the guiding principles for our vision and mission. After I started to kind of really synthesize all the problems that I was going into the mind size and understanding and grabbing kind of all the information, that became mostly a guiding principle for the future, the broader vision then.
Yeah, awesome. And did you always think that like AI was going to play a big part into what you guys were building and the problems that you guys were solving?
Absolutely. I had a full conviction on that. From the very beginning, even the customers were not so much excited about that. We would, when we go and Brad was part of kind of, the entire process here. Like we would say we would have to deliberately sometimes tell customers that, even though it was an AI solution, we have to tell kind of, it was just a generic kind of, model, like
this is just
because the customers were like
that word.
Now everybody, essentially it is almost like 180-degree shift here. Customers want a solution which has AI in it, right? It was not the case before. So the conviction was there more in terms of like AI will play a huge role, and there was few underlying assumptions, which is essentially I knew that mining industry is generating a lot of data. So that's one thing. And it is a very unique data that you can't just get hands-on from anywhere. Like, so that means it's already has a structure around it. What it needed is like, to go from being a data aggregator to put an intelligence layer around it. And another assumption, not an assumption, I think essentially is an evidence in the mining industry, it's a very resource constrained. So how do you solve the problem? You can have a lot of data which can drive value. It is not driving a value right now because either it's a computing power, either it's something that's not fully automated, and we have few mining engineers who are trying to solve problems. But then the resource constraints is also there. You don't have enough mining engineers to go and build these kind of data analysis or modeling tools. So that became kind of very clear that what is the best candidate here to kind of solve that. Like so maybe it can be a semi-automated models that we can introduce which is essentially supervised models from the all the AI tools that we started like to put focus on. So that was some of the early indicators for us that they it's something that the data is there. It is generating every day. You need like people to kind of drive decisions, but you don't have resources. The AI was kind of going to be much more better candidates, at least from the supervised learning side. And then we started to see a trend like once you truly start kind of start calibrating things for a specific use cases, you build a lot more intelligence layer and more these unsupervised models on top of it. So
no, that's super cool. I feel like you just put that so concisely there, so well. And you mentioned two different kind of ways that it drives value. One being that helping people make better decisions, and then the other way, improving the efficiency in a resource constrained industry. When you talk to companies, which one resonates better with people? Like, is it, hey, we're going to help you, figure out how much explosives to put in the hole, where to put the holes? Or is it, hey, you don't have enough people to do the job at all, we're going to help you by, making your workforce go further?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. It's sort of like I would answer this as a little bit more of a region by region, base, it differs. So US, absolutely, it's more of a resource constrained, base as well. But then it's still the majority of the value every company or the buyer, focus on is the efficiency. The resource constraint is in the back of their mind, but that doesn't kind of hit or drive the value for them instantly. They're always looking for, from the efficiency perspective, if I can save my drilling cost, or the on the power factor cost, or overall cost per ton, that's my efficiency gain. I can measure it clearly at the end of the day when I am looking at my entire profitability equation, or just kind of bottom line. That makes a lot of sense. While having the same resources, it's an add-on then for me. But if I maybe kind of from the resource perspective, if I just able to reduce the resources or have less resources that's been consumed, they don't see that kind of the immediate value there. But I think essentially the efficiency is the biggest driver for most of the customers that we have talked to. While in the other countries, if you for countries like in the APAC, Asia, the resource or the timing part is not of a big factor. The More from the kind of the value perspective, because they have resources. It's how you make them more skilled and how they make kind of better decision. So almost like the efficiency is like the better, again, the value there as well.
Do you see, that's obviously a big sort of challenge with AI, I guess, moving forward as well, is that it's not necessarily replacing people, but de-skilling them, because if they're relying on models and tools to sort of help them streamline their processes and workflows, which is great, but is it taking away some of that sort of independent thought and that real world problem solving? How do you sort of balance that act between providing value to problems and helping the resource constrained companies versus still encouraging the upskilling and the development of engineers and stuff that you guys are dealing with?
Yeah. So in terms of I think the reskilling is one of the things that everybody's going through right now, as you introduce more and more any type of new technology. AI is just kind of one of them. When several years ago, for an example, right, the GPS technology has been around from a long time. But it has not been consumed in on a day-to-day basis, in the operations, for a very long time. So reskilling was required for everybody to go and understand how to measure kind of the positional accuracy and gather data. That reskilling kind of required did it replace anybody? Did it replace any surveyors? Potentially not. But what it allowed it to everybody to be a surveyor now and gather the most accurate data. And that's kind of my analogy is from the AI perspective. When you're introducing this type of technology, everybody will go to this reskilling phase, and then the ability to understand how much kind of extra knowledge that they can get. So for an example, if I'm a blaster, if I have AI, modeling, let's say from last 100 blast, and if I can start to understand better which geology is kind of, really understand, having me correlate my powder factor ratio better. If I don't have, maybe that information was not available to me before, but if I'm using the tools here, if I'm able to kind of, garner that information a lot more faster, I may be able to create my layer of this kind of, analytics that I have a lot more kind of a layer of decision making, a lot more, in a confidence way. So the confidence level of the decision making kind of, goes away. So goes up, while this speed of decision making also kind of, changes then, which means what we see is what it could take. For example, we deal in a lot of the drill and blast side. The same blast could take 50 people to, let's say, collaborate on and waiting on the decisions, and some other expert consulting being reviewed, and consultant is asking like, another 1,000 data points. But now a blaster is able to make the same decision because he has gone through that, like condensed that consultant knowledge that you may have seen into form of kind of this AI tool there. So that's where I see kind of the biggest reskilling should happen as we think about kind of the AI implementation, how to understand not just the models, but what the outputs that AI is giving. How do you actually kind of create your own, enhance your intelligence layer, from that?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like everyone's still working. Everyone's just leveled up. Everyone's now acting as if they are, that one level above them in capability or skill, or even just things they wouldn't have had time to do otherwise, that now they can do because they have AI helping them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's super cool. And I guess what it leads into then, if people are starting to use AI to help them make decisions, is obviously then trust becomes a big factor in this. So like, how have you guys, and I mean, I know in the beginning how we did it when I was part of it, but maybe talk us through building trust with customers for Strayos. It's something that's obviously really important, right? Because you've got, especially when you're measuring things like face burdens that have real safety impacts.
Yeah. And there are like, bunch of things that we have started to introduce within kind of the, tool set and the platform side. It's what we call AI score. Essentially giving a true understanding of, like, internally, we know that, how our models perform. Now in the platform, we have kind of thumbs up, thumbs down, but also what it collects is the metadata that not only in terms of how each model is performing to each data set, that information is there with us. Now we have started to introduce AI scoring where the customers can see that the trust factor that you're talking about, that there is a data quality there. If the data loss happens, data quality loss is happening, what was the AI score there for the same? And if the data is accurate, what was the AI score there as well? So there is like, real correlation that happens. And that kind of, creates this trust factor there. And we are always like open. AI is never going to be 100% accurate. There is a margin of error. We're even saying like, if you can get up to like 70 to 80% accuracy, that's something we are aspiring for, from as a model, creator. What it allows you to at least cut down the 70 to 80% then fast. Like, what you would be doing it manually, or what we would be kind of, finding kind of, in tons of data set to, to get that information. Now you have that kind of, get-go to use that information there. So that's one thing. For example, this, we recently, one customer kind of sent me this screenshot of his analysis. He's a geotech consultant, and he did this rock mass kind of analysis very manually, like, literally like compared our AI tool, the rock mass, and then he sent me a screenshot of the actual kind of structure analysis. I said, this is the human, this is, no, he sent me first the two screenshot. And it's like, which one is which? And I was kind of
which is human, which is
because
AI.
he sent me the actual stereo net, the final kind of output results, and I couldn't tell any difference, because if he would have sent me just the 3D model, I would have easily understood, and I could not tell like which one is human, which one is the AI. And he said like so this one is kind of the human, and this one is the AI, and that was he was like commending on how much AI has become accurate now, what it was there 2 years ago. So that's what the journey I am explaining. The trust takes time. What it was, that model 2 years ago was not that fully accurate, because it needed to go through several iterations, several model development, more data sets. Now what we are sitting that kind of on the other side of the fence, that it is getting accurate, like, and the trust is coming, and the trust only comes when the users and the end users, come and say like, this is what we are experiencing. we can continue to kind of, tell that our models from our loss function and the other, our technical, KPI measurement, we can tell like our models are performing like 80 to 90% better, like, but it's what users perceive. And so that's usually kind of, I see the trust has been essentially enhanced, throughout that process.
Do you see like I guess, built into that, and you sort of mentioned it briefly before, but like the attitude towards, I guess, handing over stuff to AI, like becoming more like lower barrier for entry for organizations? And I guess in the next part of that question being like, because that sort of pace of change, like you mentioned, a couple of years, the developments improved so dramatically. Like, what are you excited about in terms of like the next couple of years? And I guess they sort of move in parallel, but sort of like lagging. It's like the technology increases, which increases the accuracy, continues to build trust, etc. But like there's always that lag, because it's like, well, is it real? Has it been validated? Give us my use cases and business cases to then become more trusting of the tech.
Yeah, so certainly, I think what has been changing is this awareness and the education part about how the AI and the models are kind of, continually improving. Both, and I'm speaking a lot more from not just the, large language models. I'm speaking a lot more from geometric models, and then also the computer vision models as well. And the computer vision models and the geometric kind of, models heavily rely on the data side. Right, so the sensors you are collecting, so let's say computer vision sensors, either it's the camera or the drones or the LiDAR, and that has seen a dramatic shift in how much it has been advanced over the last several years. Just like, what it was, a few years ago, the quality and the LiDAR or any other kind of, this visual sensors have gone up like dramatically in terms of the quality. And also the cost is going down as well of all these sensors. So the shift is happening, which means more and more customers are kind of, adopting that. So when more customers adopt it, it's kind of almost becomes a day-to-day use case. And then they start finding use cases going beyond from this regular, like just say, hey, I can just do a survey. Oh, can I apply this for like other use cases now? Like, which is a geotech kind of, consultant coming in, or a geotech department. Well, this can do this. And look, I'm just going to go and get the sensor myself instead of relying on my surveyors. And that's what we have seen that, shift is, which is more kind of this from the hardware and the sensor side rapidly advancing. And then the compute side as well, like, we introduced this new solution, more the 3D camera, 3D studio camera. If you put like that as a technology a few years ago, the computing power and the large AI models that we're deploying at the edge was not there before. Now we can compress those models at the edge and have real-time kind of analysis of like this, rock particles, that's flowing through any type of like, material circuit. So that's, again, the computing power is like, going rapidly, like it's scaling, like, we living in kind of this NVIDIA, like, days of like everybody's like scaling crazy. But that, and then also what we see is this correlation of how the data that they are generating and this learning and the calibration part that was not there before. And this calibration part is something that users like really honing and dialing into, which means, for an example, if I can like really correlate my the previous 10 drilling, all the drilling locations, and what was the outcome from that, let's say, rock hardness to the crusher. And that's something that I knew that, we would do that, but the users started like asking us, like, hey, we want to kind of like really start and making the decision, because it's Strayos, or like the platform is already capturing this. Can we like, start putting things in place of correlation? Can you start developing this type of models where you are correlating from bench to, plant, and helping us kind of, make decisions, and driving those decisions there. So that's something that we have seen changing now.
I guess with that in mind, like you got sort of you broaden out the fleet of Strayos tools to bring in more of that mine to mill sort of whole life cycle. I guess how do you see big picture like Strayos fitting into the sort of more autonomous future of mining and the technology enabled future of mining? Is it that whole like where digitizing and mapping and sensing everything from dirt in the ground to product at the end of the mill?
Yeah. So I think with Strayos, as I see kind of, how we have evolved as a company, we want to be kind of this like middle layer, like, what I call the perfect analogy is kind of, we want to be this essentially the intelligence layer of any type of data that's been captured from the mines. We don't want to be, reinventing the wheel of like, building more kind of, design tools, let's say, mine planning or the geology package, or we want to be kind of, once the data has been continuously collected from different hardwares or different, model, let's say, you design a different softwares, throwing that data into the platform like the Strayos, and then come up with an optimized, version of it. And that's where this AI is going to kind of, model is going to run and going to give you optimized scenarios. So that's one kind of, our feature that we want to guide, like more or less kind of a platform layer which can connect different type of, elements, from different systems. And then the another part is like we want to be in the computer vision or machine vision layer of that tool set. Like when there is a visual sensor there, we want to capitalize on that or the strength. Like how do we double down that as that sort of this analysis becomes ubiquitous in the mines, because that's still very in the, I would say, in the infancy days, that not every mines use any type, visual sensors. Either they're using it, it's very limited. But man, it just generates amazing amount of kind of information. You just, throw in some kind of cameras or throw in like, have a drones like going and collecting kind of information. That's kind of one of the reasons like now we are fully integrated with the autonomous drones, which means drone in a box. In fact, in Australia, we have kind of have customers where the drone automatically flies, pushes the data into the platform, and AI runs an analysis on the haul road, and then gives back 3 times a day, because the customer in this case, they're monitoring kind of their wear and tear. Because another aspect of it is like as the mines goes more autonomous, as to answer your question, Paul, the AI layer becomes a lot more important. And why? So when the mines are going autonomous, previously the humans were there, essentially the guiding layer of like, if there is a truck which is passing by and there is a spillage there, you can stop and you can make a decision to reroute, or essentially call kind of the dispatch operator and make them kind of have that information shared in advance. So you start to, like, from the logistic perspective, you make the decision fast. Now what happens is these autonomous trucks are there, which are great. As they drive by, they see a spillage, the LiDAR sensors, they see that and they just stop. Now, one truck stops, it backs up other trucks.
Yeah.
So you don't have anybody like right now there, although, so what happens is just creates more friction around this timing part. So what we are saying is this is a use case. If you have a collection of the data on a frequent basis, and you can, this from a road analysis side, if you detect a spillage fast, then that becomes a dispatch, person. So the humans are obviously kind of not involved there now, but the dispatching is actually, an alerting is generated, from the AI, and then it sends that. So essentially, machine is talking to the machine and making the decisions now. So that's where kind of the next level of autonomy will happen. As I kind of see, that's where we want to be in that kind of as a layer.
So essentially, you're going to have drones deployed 24/7 across every single pit in the world, feeding robot data back to Skynet and then telling it what to do. Quite simple.
Yes, that's the future kind of I'm excited about.
I mean, you mentioned drones and that example, which was super cool. Are there any other examples that you wanted to share just to kind of really bring it to life for people, like how Strayos is being used today? You mentioned the stereo cameras. maybe some real tangible examples of what people are doing with it, how that's creating value for them, and then what you're excited to kind of evolve that into in the future.
Yeah, and this is another case just from learning from customers, and they keep giving feedback that what type of problems that they have. They can't track their this understanding of the blast performance. You get a fragmentation, but you can't do anything with it. How do you make drive better decisions for your next blast, or understanding the geology better, and how it's actually the performance in the actual plant there. And that's how the 3D camera solutions Netra was born from that. From how do we collect better data here and make it as the use of the life of the mine here. So what we found is after the implementation, some of our customers, they have shared a tangible benefits. Essentially, one customer, they have not only the first immediate benefit that they saw was the crusher gap reduction. Previously, they have no idea. Essentially, they knew that they are managing their crusher at a optimal rate, but as they run the crusher, what after the implementation of the 3D stereo camera systems, it started giving them a good understanding that every load that's coming up, almost 60% are not based on your crusher settings. So you're burning more energy, and instantly within a month that they were able to dial down essentially the crusher settings more properly. Otherwise, they were just running the same settings all the time. And then the sizing as well, why they're producing not an optimal size. So they started going back and started experimenting with their blast pattern expansion. And so that's, immediate, the reduction of crusher gap up to about 7%, which was a lot of efficiency gains, for them. Then the other one that we've seen is this understanding of how you run the entire milling process better, where we have a customer, they have installed this system at almost 6 different phases in the comminution circuit. And what they're really trying to understand, if I want to produce, let's say in the next 3 months, I want to produce a size that I want to produce a 27-inch plus minus that's my final product I want to produce. But what are the areas that I want to really dial down in my comminution circuit to lower that cost and still get that size? So that's some of these areas that understanding of the process control gets better, that previously they didn't used to have that data. Another area that we have seen is this understanding of really what they call the chemical crushing, or the chemical processing, where the systems are able to detect the rock textures, and then understand whether it's a clay, and then also when they inject these polymers, the chemicals, it creates this process of, sometimes they inject too much polymers, which is bad for them for the final product, and it creates this different texture. So the cameras are detecting them and alerting that too much chemicals has been injected to stop that, and we have integrated to a process control system, so it alerts. So previously they used to have humans literally just in front of that and telling them yes, no, and sometimes obviously as a human that's a very monotonous job. You can't do that almost several hours a day. After implementation, it became fully automated, which is, it just signals as a binary one yes, no, and it controls the chemical injection there. So I found myself in this process of this understanding. It's man, this is interesting use cases, but what is it is becoming more of a process engineering and the process improvement system that we have seen is which is at the end of the day. So again, going back to how do you increase the life of the mine? So if you're also dialing your process at the mill, you're getting better at the mine too then.
Yeah, it's epic. I got excited about that whole real-time analysis of dirt from pit coming into crushers, and optimizing your settings on the crusher, and then optimizing your settings on your plant to be based on the real-time data that you're getting from your material. I'm sold. That sounded great. Where can I buy one?
Yeah.
For my non-existent open cut mine.
I'm gonna buy a crusher first. But yeah, I guess it's super cool. We've been talking like those use cases are epic on the mining side. One other thing, because we're coming up to time here, that we love to chat to people about is like their favorite AI use cases outside of Strayos.
Outside of Strayos, yeah.
Personally, and or even just for your own work benefit. What are some of the AI tools that are exciting you at the moment, and how are you using them?
Yeah. So I use outside Strayos AI tools. My day-to-day job, I like to read a lot of these technical papers, and now what I use is ChatGPT or like other LLMs. I just feed the papers into that. Like, I would just take, 5 papers, per week and feed it and then essentially create a summary. So my gathering of these kind of technical papers, like I don't have to spend another extra 2 hours reading that. Now I can kind of synthesize that a lot more faster. So that's been a tremendous hack that I have in order to gain that kind of so that's one tool, that kind of one use case that I like, that I've been doing it from last several months, I would say. The another one is I'm right now I'm trying to kind of create this essentially a content a writing kind of process. So I would just grab a few things and I would put it in this any LLM kind of models, and we'll start creating this kind of snippets of it. And then what I'm trying to kind of see is, can the LLMs start recognizing my way of understanding and thinking, which content that I kind of like most, and it start recommending me in the future. So it's content recommendation process that I'm trying to teach, just with a open source LLM that I've been experimenting with. So we'll see.
Oh, fun! Yes.
I was going to say the notebook LM. We heard from someone recently that they've done a similar thing around those technical papers and stuff. But apparently, if you upload technical papers, you can then get a distilled podcast based on that paper, using notebook LM as well. So instead of having to read it or even summarize it, it's hey, I can just listen to it as I'm going about my work or driving or whatever as well. It's pretty cool.
Oh, don't say that. Then no one's going to need to listen to our podcast.
Yeah, exactly. AI podcast rather than listen to us.
We're starting this thing.
Yeah. But we have real humans here,
Yeah, we are real. We are real.
Promise. Yeah.
I guess, the last question that we have that we like to ask everyone is what excites you about the future of AI, and are you AI optimistic and we're going to have a utopic version of the world, or are we going to create the Matrix or Skynet with AI?
I do worry about that, having that Skynet coming, for us. If you ask some of my team members, they are fully convinced, this Skynet will definitely come. Although they are kind of working for AI company.
They're trying to build trust with the robot.
Yeah. I think I'm very, very, very optimistic about the AI side, kind of, in the use cases, just rapid, especially I think for the mining. I think it's and as you've been kind of as a mining engineer, where building solutions is just an amazing. The technology, kind of the AI is essentially, it's an amazing use case, especially for the mining industry, because it is going to essentially unlock a lot of economic value that was not there or not realized for the mining industry. Because mining industry is almost sort of like this, I would say, sleeping giant industry that it works, it has a lot of value it creates, but really the economic value was kind of not exposed, and not really kind of fully what I call it is value capture versus value creation. Mining industry creates a lot of value, but it doesn't capture. I think the AI will change that. as an industry, just for the mining. So that's why I'm very optimistic about the AI in mining.
Fantastic, amazing.
No,
well,
awesome.
on that positive note, do you want to wrap us up, Paul? And
yeah, I was going to say, thanks for joining us today, Ravi. Great to dive into your journey and Strayos. And yeah, that's it for us today, guys. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and like us. Leave us a review if you can, and share it amongst all of your colleagues within industry as well. And if you'd like to learn more about Strayos, Ravi, where should we go?
Yeah, you can find us at www.strayos.com, and then also we have a LinkedIn page. Just look for Strayos AI and follow us. And
awesome.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you, Paul.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to learn more about Hevi, jump on over to our website, which is hevi.app as well. And thanks for listening, everyone, and have a great day.